Hospital porters, pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order. Welcome to Panwo TV. It's good to be back again actually. I've had a week or so without uploading, no, just over a week, and I'm sorry about that, but I had some family issues to deal with. I've decided to make a video which is kind of based on some comments I've had and where that led. So that's what this video is about. The video is entitled Why I Still Support Boris. And this comes up again and again in the comments section, and the other day it basically came to some really vicious climax on social media, so which is why I decided to make this video. Now, you know that Boris Johnson, of course, is the current Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and that when he came to his office, which he was actually elected in July of 2019, so he's been over a year now, about a year and a half, as Prime Minister. And as I explained at the time, I felt that this was a unique situation for me, and I did several articles about this on Her Panwo Voice. I covered this on HPWA blog as well when Boris got ill because he caught COVID-19, and I've done several Her Panwo TV videos about this. Now, when he took over from Theresa May, you all know what happened. This all goes back to 2016 and the Brexit referendum on July the 23rd, 2016. From that moment onwards, Theresa May then took over from David Cameron as Prime Minister. Basically, the whole process was stagnating. You remember, I've covered this in detail as and when it happened. I've covered everything, including my thoughts and feelings. And it was very obvious that Theresa May was basically dragging her heels like some stubborn child. Come on, you've got to go to school now. He walks really slowly. Every time you look round, he's walking slower, that kind of thing. Boris Johnson takes over in July last year, and within 3 days, he has achieved more in 3 days than she did in the previous 3 bloody years. The reason why, because Boris wanted to get it done. The swiftness with which he managed to make progress proves that Theresa May's failure was not accidental, it was actually deliberate. I think we can safely say that. When Boris went into the general election, what was his mantra? Get Brexit done is one of his campaigning slogans. Get Brexit done, get Brexit done. And as you see on the t-shirt, make Britain independent again, you see get Brexit done on his boxing gloves. And he did get Brexit done. In January, at the end of January this year, January the 31st, as you know, because I was in London celebrating it and I filmed it, of course. What happens? Brexit actually happened. Since then, there's been a negotiation process, which I have been covering on Her Panwo Voice, because the usual culprits come out of the woodwork to try and throw spanners in the works. And as I said, don't be surprised if before the next general election happens, you get some kind of rejoin alliance between probably Labour, Lib Dem and SNP. So to be prepared for that. But Boris said, let's get Brexit done. He went and did it. Do you remember that speech he gave? He gave a speech at this police training college, and this is a speech that will change the world, because he said, the reporter asked him, will you, as Prime Minister, request an extension? And he said, will you promise the British people you will not request any kind of extension? He said yes. Then the opposition ganged up on him. This was before the general election when he got his majority. They were ganging up on him. Corbyn and what's her name, that unknown bitch who used to run the Lib Dems, they were like bullying him. They even threatened, they'll say, Lord, you'll face criminal charges if you don't do this. In the end, he sent off that letter. Do you remember my video I made called Boris's Letter? He sent off a letter which he refused to sign. and he also sent off another one explaining his position. He sent that off to Verhofstadt saying, you know, he didn't want to request an extension. In the end, they were granted an extension from Halloween to the 31st of January, and finally, the fourth bloody extension. At the end of that, on the 31st of January, Brexit happened. And there was a time when I did wonder, are we ever going to see this? It just seemed like one of these immovable objects and irresistible forces kinds of things. And it actually happened. Boris Johnson is the first Prime Minister ever in my life, in living memory. And in fact, the same counts for Prime Ministers before my life, historical Prime Ministers that I've examined as well, that were around before my birth. This is the first time ever I've looked on a Prime Minister and felt admiration and respect. It's a completely new experience for me. But you see, Boris is the British Trump. He is. Or he was. Now, this is the thing. I mean, this is what keeps coming up in the chat box all the time. In the chat boxes during the live streams, it's the usual characters: Diego Rivera, Stephen the Truth Seeker, and these other people. They will come up and they will say, "Look, you know, I've even had, I think it was Diego Rivera. Apologies if it wasn't; it was someone else." But someone said they immediately posted completely off topic on one of my videos. I think you should apologise for ever supporting Boris Johnson. And this carried on and on and on. These comments kept coming up. You've seen them if you participate in the comments sections regularly. And this all came to a head about 2 days ago. This is why I'm making this video. A certain individual who I won't name, but you probably know him because he's always in the comments section saying things like this. Basically tackled me on social media, on Facebook, and just saying, look, it started in one of the groups and then it led to inboxing. But he said, look, he said, this is all to do with COVID-19. Boris is dictating us, he's telling us what we can and can't do. Boris Johnson is a part of the government, yet you support him. You're planning to go on an anti-COVID-19 protest on Saturday. But at the same time you're supporting the agenda. This is a contradiction. You support Boris Johnson, the guy is a New World Order. This guy is part of the New World Order. And as it happened, I didn't go to the protest last Saturday because I had a family issue to deal with, as I explained. Now, my response was to write back to this person and explain to them what I'm explaining to you in this film. And I did it within a few sentences. It wasn't a long rambling post. It was just like 3 or 4 sentences. He could have read it very easily, very quickly. I wrote it in a very comprehensive way. His response to that, my reply to him, was simply to repeat the point he'd made before. Now I can't deal with this, okay? I can't cope with people who do this sort of thing. I don't expect agreement from everyone who watches my videos. Far from it. I think I'd be a very boring content creator if that was the case. I welcome dissent. I welcome criticism. I welcome discussion. But the discussion has to be logical. I had the same problem with Victor Nevada, actually. He did exactly the same thing. He obviously has a problem. It's like this guy here, who inboxed me on Facebook. I'll just call him the Facebook guy. You may want to, if you want to own up, Facebook guy, you can. You can just put in the comment section of this video. I'm not going to reveal your identity because this was a private matter by inbox. But you can own up if you want who you are. But I've had this with Victor Nevada. They have a problem with me. They post something explaining why they have a problem with me, which doesn't quite make sense. Is wrong. I explain to them why they're wrong, and they just carry on as if I haven't said anything. They just carry on at me as if I haven't said anything, or if I've said something completely different to what I said before. That's enormously frustrating, because I can't deal it with people who just won't listen to me. If you think I'm wrong, explain to me why you think I'm wrong. Just say you're wrong because then I can reply to you, and for goodness sake, then reply to my reply. Don't just repeat the bloody point you made before as if I haven't said anything. It's just, I can't. It's like talking to it's like as if like I'm just not saying anything. It's like talking to someone who literally is deaf. In the end, this person left the group. We were both members of a group. He left the group after leaving a very angry public comment, and then he's unfriended me. He's not blocked me, so I wrote to him and just said, look, you don't want to listen to me, do you? He hasn't replied. So I can still contact him because he's unfriended me without blocking me. But basically he's just turning his back on me. And it's a shame, and we've fallen out like this before, actually. We've been at this point before. And it's just really sad, because I can explain things. I want to explain to you people why I still support Boris Johnson. And yes, I'm the first to admit that Boris has been a huge disappointment. Since the very heady and optimistic time of Brexit and the post-Brexit period, Boris has capitulated. He has behaved in a very establishment figure in many ways, especially over the COVID-19 situation. He has simply parroted the official lines you hear from. You'd have heard exactly the same thing from Theresa May. You'd have heard exactly the same from David Cameron. You'd have heard exactly the same thing from Gordon Brown if they'd been Prime Minister at the time. Exactly the same thing. He's also pushing ahead with HS2. I've done an entire video about that, which you can watch. I'll put a link in the description box. Oh, sod the bloody links. You find it, you know where it is. It's on my channel. It's only 4 or 5 videos down. So Boris went in there to drain the swamp. I think he was Britain's Trump. He went in to drain the swamp, but unfortunately the swamp has drained him. I don't know how they did it. He obviously doesn't have the infrastructure of support that President Trump has. Now Trump is draining the swamp. Trump has achieved an enormous amount, and hopefully will go on to achieve a lot more. Obviously I'll be covering the US election in more detail nearer the time, but I've covered it on her Panmo radio recently. He obviously has people, very powerful people on the inside supporting him, especially people within the military and the Department of Defence. Otherwise he'd be dead right now. The fact that Boris is still alive and he's doing this means that he doesn't have that infrastructure of support. And the man has a wife, as a partner, a woman he's engaged to be married to, and a young child. I don't expect him to sacrifice those people for what he's doing. They must have threatened them. Trump, of course, also has a big family. He has a wife. He has numerous children and lots of grandchildren, and he's also in a vulnerable position. But obviously, his whole family must be protected. There must be protection in there, like I said, an infrastructure of shielding. Otherwise, he'd go the same way as Kennedy. Boris obviously has capitulated. Now, what's going on here? What's going on? Now, I know what a lot of you are going to say. Indeed, this is what Caroline Stevens has said. Now, as I explained in a previous video, Caroline has completely broken contact with me. She blocked me and won't speak to me. I don't know why. All I've ever done with her is disagree with her, but she wants nothing more to do with me. But her position has always been that Boris was an insider from the start. And there's a lot of you, and I know a lot of you have done this. You said, look, Boris, we told you, Ben, we told you Boris was bad news. You believed him. You fell for it and we didn't. But we warned you, Ben. We tried to tell you, didn't we? Because so they look at the situation now with COVID-19 and HS2. We told you, Ben. We told you he was an insider. Well, that's one possibility. The possibility is that Boris simply was an all-out shill. He was an all-out shill from day one, and that everything that happened was a confidence trick. So that all the goodness he did was simply, it was just a disguise. All the Brexit, that was just a disguise. When really deep down he's actually working for the enemy. That's Caroline's position. That's a position of a lot of you who watch me and comment on the videos. I don't think that's the case. The reason why is because of the things he did, the fact that he was a force for good. He was a positive force, there's no doubt about it. His transformation into a negative force happened quite quickly at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic, and since then he has become a tool of the establishment. He's now working for them. Now, the key point here. This is why I support him. Is he's not working for them willingly. He doesn't want what they want. He's doing it against his will. He's been coerced. There are numerous times that people do this sort of thing. That they serve, they do something. I mean, even on a small level, if you're doing a particular job which you object to on a conscientious level. For instance, a police officer who doesn't want to go around grabbing people and arresting them for making Facebook posts. These coppers who, in Australia, like, who arrested a pregnant woman for making a bloody Facebook post. They may go home at the end of the day and they go up to their wife and say, "My God, I didn't join the force for this. I'm doing my duty, I'm obeying orders, which I have to do, because that's my job. But I wish I didn't have to do this. I joined the police to fight crime and disorder and keep people safe, protect the innocent. And now all I'm doing is rounding up innocent people and I'm doing nothing. And the police chiefs are telling me to turn a blind eye to real criminals." That's the kind of thing I mean. So that kind of coercive compliance exists on all levels. Boris might be doing exactly that. Now, the point is, the reason I support him is because if that's the case, he can fight back, and he might find a way to fight back. He is really on our side, you see. That's the point. He really is on our side, but he's working for them against his will. But it means he can push back. This is like Clayne Quilly, my character in Roswell Rising. He does something similar. He ends up, he's like he starts as a disclosure advocate, and he ends up working for. He was originally like he's a disclosure secretary in the government, and he ends up, when the disclosure situation is quashed and the UFO secrecy, the government tried to get UFO secrecy restored. He ends up working against his will for them because his family are threatened. They threatened to kill his family. But he finds a way to break. If you read the book, you'll know that Clayne finds a way to fight back without risking his family. Boris might find a way to do the same. There are good people around still in existence who will support, hopefully get through to him and build a kind of build some kind of beachhead for him to escape. Maybe there's some civil servants or senior military officers who are willing to fight for their country and their people and their species and help Boris to do so. In which case, because then I'll be right behind him. The 2016 effect is real, I've explained before. It's something that happened. This is what led to the premiership of Boris Johnson and President Trump. It's what led to the Brexit situation. The Illuminati literally completely lost control of planet Earth. For a good few months, I'd say probably 7 or 8 months, they completely lost control. And the political structures of this world were in chaos. They were in turmoil without any instructions from head office. They were just going around willy-nilly. This is what got President Trump into power. Donald Trump was never meant to be the president. He got into the White House against the will of the establishment. Brexit happened against the will of the establishment. Boris Johnson was never meant to be Prime Minister. No, they wanted, I think, what's his name? Zach, what's his name? Oh God, I forgot. Goldsmith. Zach Goldsmith. I think they wanted Zach Goldsmith. So, despite my disappointment with what Boris has done in the meantime, there's still hope for him. And look at what he is doing. He's been told to toe the line on COVID, but he's still fighting for Brexit. He's been allowed to do that. He's threatened no deal. I mean, I did a Hapanwo voice article about this. You might have seen it. Basically, Barnier was coming to him saying, you know, we need some kind of we need you to drop this idea that you can subsidise British businesses in deals with Europe. Because at the moment, Boris wants this deal where the government can subsidise British businesses in favour of European ones. I forgot what it's called. I forgot what the system's called. Barnier wanted to get rid of this. Part of the negotiations is you've got to get rid of this. Boris said no. And so Barnier said, look, if we're going to have a deal here, you need to get rid of this. Boris says, in that case, we're not going to have a deal. We'll go for the World Trade Organization. So basically, this is what the Remainers call crashing out without a deal. Which, of course, that phrase is a total and utter piece of propaganda. It's just rhetoric. Crash out without a deal. You know. Oh, honestly, they're absolute masterpieces when it comes to Orwellian language. These people, they really are. They are actually masters of the game. But no, it's not crashing out that deal. The World Trade Organization Barley Package is perfectly adequate. It provides a working, provisional trade relationship in a single go as a template, which we can then adapt over time to suit ourselves. It's not, and Boris has not taken that off the table. The fact that he's not taken that off the table means he still has some clout. Although, as Ian R. Crane said, he's not. It looks like Boris is not the one running things at the moment. He's not the guy running things at the moment. He's not. He's probably Dominic Cummings and the other guy. They're probably controlling him. They're certainly controlling the COVID-19 situation, and Boris is playing along, as I said, probably against his will. Boris has also taken steps in the to defund the BBC. Now, this is the TV licence, which I've talked about before. Boris is still very keen to abolish the TV licence, which of course would be absolutely fantastic. Anyone who pays their TV licence is basically forging their own shackles. It's something, ever since the licence was introduced in 1946, lots and lots of critics have said this. They've made this point. Why should we pay for a service whether we use it or not? I mean, if you're going to get a subscription to Netflix or Amazon Prime or Gaia TV or something, right, you pay a monthly subscription, don't you? No one at any point says, okay, you got to pay it whether you get the product or not. So you pay Netflix's subscription even if you don't have Netflix. Do you think that's fair? Of course not. Of course it's not fair. That's what the BBC do. And what does it go to? It goes to funding low quality programs with a very high level of, I would say, degeneracy, demoralisation, violence, but very, very destructive messages and propaganda. Basically, it's basically the cultural Marxist kind of central, isn't it? Along with the newspapers and things like that. Why should I pay for that? If I'm going to have my brain warped, which I don't, because I hardly only watch it to analyse it. But if other people watch it and believe it, why should we pay for that? Why should we pay to have our minds poisoned? And Boris has said this. Boris actually came out and said it. He didn't use quite my language, but he basically made that point that it's unfair. But he did go a lot further. I mean, this is the thing. He went a lot further. He talked about the proms, and as you may know, the BBC proms. The last night of the proms. There's been a tradition which since the BBC have been running it. The proms have been going since around about 1900. The BBC have been running it since 1954. And at the last night of the proms, they play certain songs, and there's a kind of pantomime where everyone sings along and they wave flags. There's Edward Elgar's Pomp and Circumstance. There's the British Sea Songs medley by I can't remember the composer. And then there's Rule Britannia. There's Jerusalem, of course. They play those, and everyone sings along. And they wave flags, not just Union Jacks, all kinds of flags. But it's very patriotic. Well, the Guardianistas and Critterati and all these other people have been coming out saying how it's white patriarchal slavery and privilege and oh god, empire and you know the line. I mean, these epithets, they could almost write themselves, couldn't they? I mean, it's so cliche, all the usual things. And the BBC has said, yes sir, we will ban it immediately. We will ban it immediately. Then there was an outcry. There was an absolute outcry. Absolutely, people were furious, as they should be. And Boris got behind it. Now he put his flag immediately with the people and spoke openly about it. Now what's really weird is he said this. He said, some people are trying to restrain me from saying this. Someone is trying to restrain him from saying what he did about the proms. What? He's the Prime Minister, for goodness sake. What do you mean, who's trying to restrain him? How couldn't they restrain him? Either way, it's very interesting that he revealed that, because I think it says a lot about his relationship with whoever is really controlling this country still. Unfortunately, still is in power. Anyway, he put his foot down, and the BBC, they started to capitulate. First they said, oh, well, we'll have instrumentals. only and no singing. I mean, there's going to be no audience anyway because of the lockdown. We'll have instrumentals only and no vocals. And then they said, okay, well, and then eventually after more pressure they did bring in a choir, so there was vocals. So they played those songs with the vocals, and gradually they had, like, I think a choir of 20. I mean, there was a bit of a fuss. They reworked Jerusalem. They got this bloody Jerusalem was reworked into a completely new tune, and there was a solo singer singing it, and the vocalist, she was actually quite good, the singer. Although if you watch it on YouTube, you'll see that wasn't the reason she was selected, I'm sure. But she was wasted on this absolute travesty. It's nothing like the original. And did those feet in ancient times. It's a sacred song. I mean, it's a spiritual anthem of the British people. I mean, that's why they had to get rid of it, didn't they? But Boris made a stand for that. Boris stood up for that. I think Boris still can do great things. This is not a done deal. It's not over yet. Boris Johnson has not been... He's not been corrupted mentally. He has been forced to work against his will. He's in the swamp, but not of the swamp. And if you give up on him and you just say, well, now because he's doing all this, I'm going to give up, well, then you're kind of doing the work of the Illuminati for them. I must say, I've noticed that there is this kind of... There's a culture within the conspirasphere, within the truth movement, whatever you want to call it, that is rather like the people I talked about in my last disclosure video, you know, that they're not aliens posers. And it's related also to the MBAers inside Coercive, the Materialist Bravery Wars. You know, there's this kind of like clique of kind of backslapping, self-congratulatory kind of self-appointed heroes who believe that they are superior to the rest of the truth movement. And the reason they believe they're superior is because they believe that the New World Order is invincible and all-powerful, and it has complete and total control over the entire world. That's what they believe. These people have developed this arrogance and this kind of pomposity because they actually think there's no hope. And this lack of hope, this pessimism, is what gives them their sense of self-superiority over other people. Anyone who shows any form of optimism is regarded as someone who has been fooled, who is a dupe and a coward. So if you even suggest for one moment that, you know, things might turn out okay, oh, Ben, how can you be so naive? You get that kind of response. You know the kind of characters we're talking about. And funny enough, these kinds of characters, they tend to be the same characters who are like shill crazy. You know, they're the kind of people who have a really bad case of shill fever. You know the kind of people I'm talking about. He's a shill. She's a shill. He's a shill. That person's a shill. Oh, yeah, they're an agent. They're an agent. They're government agents. That person's MI5. Everyone's a shill except me. You know the kind of person I'm talking about. So the what should I call them? The we're all doomed. Yeah, we're all doomed posers. That's what I call them. Absolutely every single thing that happens in the world is exactly what the New World Order wants. That's what they think. And if anything happens which appears to go against what the New World Order wants, well, it does. It's not real, you see. It appears that way, but really it's what the New World Order wants. Absolutely everything. So whenever something good happens, it's really something bad in disguise. And I can accept that, because I haven't been fooled, man. You've been fooled and I haven't, and that makes me superior to you. Yeah. Let me just stand here and lord it over you, you optimistic weakling. I know that we're all finished, and we're never going to get out of this New World Order. And I can live with that, and that makes me so much better than you. You understanding now, don't you? You know the kind of... You probably thought of a couple of people already who fit that description, haven't you? And I said this before, you know, nothing will persuade these people that anything good is happening. I wonder what these people will do with themselves in the post-Illuminati world, because they'll never admit they were wrong. if Boris manages to try and find a way to fight back, they will never ever admit that they were wrong, will they? I think they'll just peep round corners going, my goodness, aren't they crafty? It looks like we're out of the New World Order, but we're not really. The Illuminati is still there, and I'm one of the few people who can face up to that reality, that truth, that awful truth, and only I can face up to it. I once actually challenged one of these posers. I just said, look, alright, look, if you really think that, you know, Trump's an insider, Boris is an insider, everyone, all the good people are insiders, and Julian Assange is a shill, and Edward Snowden's a shill, and I'm a shill, and Miles is a shill, and everyone's a bloody shill. Okay, well, what would have to happen for you to accept that the New World Order was over and it had failed, and we were living in a free world? And he said, I would believe that when I turn on the 10 o'clock news and I see Dr. Judy Wood being interviewed, then and only then would I accept it. And I said, okay. I have to agree with that literally, because I think if we did turn on the 10 o'clock news and Dr. Judy Wood was being interviewed, I think we can safely say that there was a bit of a snafu in the New World Order mill, can't we? We could simply say there was a spanner in the engine room somewhere. Yeah, but you see, that would never happen spontaneously. And I explained this to this person. I said, look, you realise that couldn't happen spontaneously. That could only be the end result of a process. And they said, what? And they sort of looked at me confused, as they didn't understand what they meant. And then they gave me a response which indicated that they really didn't understand what I was saying. Which I think, or possibly they did understand what I was saying, but they're so entrenched in their "we're all doomed" poser existence that they just didn't want to be. They couldn't live without it. They said, we're all doomed. This is part of my identity. They would probably think these people actually. It's rather like the feminists, you know. They've got this sense of victimhood has become part of their identity to the point where it's even essential for their self-esteem. So without that sense of pessimism, that sense of loss, and that sense of tragedy and dystopia, what would they do with their lives? Who would they be? Well, they'd have to look around and reassess everything about themselves, which is why they cling on to things like, oh, Trump's an insider, Boris is an insider, everyone's an insider, and everyone's a shill. So that is the reason why I support Boris Johnson. I don't believe that we should abandon him. We should not give up on him. Now, this film basically lays it out in as much detail and as simply and as comprehensively as it possibly can. I'm specifically addressing the person who unfriended me on Facebook now. This person I've known for a long time. This person I've actually met in real life and spoken to in real life, and used to get on very well with. Why, you can watch this and listen. If you do, feel free to respond, but you have to respond to the points I make. If you're just going to wash your head at me with another litany of meaningless points which indicate you haven't actually read or listened or watched a single thing I've said, then I don't want anything more to do with you. I can't converse with you in that respect. I cannot keep banging my head against that brick wall. You explain to me why I'm wrong about what I've said in this video, or you just shut up and leave me alone. Those are your only two choices, because I've had enough of this. I really have. Anyway, Boris Johnson, keep up the good work. Well, I was going to say keep up the good work. No. You have done good work. You're now doing bad work. You have to go back to being good work. Find some way. And if you can do that, I will be 100% behind you. Good luck. Thank you, Hapanmo TV viewers, for watching Hapanmo TV once again. Hospital Port as pride and dignity. Stop the New World Order.